The massive ship moved through space like a metal whale swimming through darkness. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the stars pass by through the window. His hands were steady, but his heart was beating fast. This was the most important trip any human had ever taken. "Captain, we're getting close to Centauri Prime," said Lieutenant Amy Foster from her control station. Her voice was calm, but Jake could hear the worry hidden underneath. They all knew what was waiting for them. Jake nodded and looked at the woman. Sitting in the chair next to him, Ambassador Lisa Carter had been Earth's top diplomat for 20 years. She had dealt with trade wars, border disputes, and peace talks between nations. But nothing had prepared her for this moment. "Are you ready for this, Lisa?" Jake asked quietly. Lisa straightened her blue uniform and checked her datapad one more time. As ready as anyone can be when they're about to ask 800 alien species not to destroy their entire planet. The truth was simple and terrible. Earth had been alone in space for over 200 years. When humans first discovered they weren't alone in the universe, they had tried to make contact with their neighbors. But first contact had gone wrong in ways no one could have imagined. The aliens had seen human movies and television shows. They had read human books and studied human history. What they saw scared them more than any weapon or army ever could. Humans were violent, unpredictable, and they grew stronger and smarter every year, while other species had stayed mostly the same for thousands of years. Humans changed and improved constantly. The Galactic Council had watched Earth from a distance ever since that first meeting. They sent spies and robots to study human behavior, analyzed human culture and technology, and what they learned made them afraid. "Captain, we're getting a message from the Council," said Communications Officer Dan Miller. "They're giving U.S. permission to dock at Station 7. Jake felt his stomach tighten. Station 7 was where they took prisoners and criminals. It wasn't where they welcomed honored guests. But at least they were being allowed to speak. The ship moved slowly toward the massive space station floating around Centauri Prime. The station was bigger than any city on Earth. It had been built by dozens of different species working together. Humans had never been invited to help build anything in space before today. As they docked, Jake could see alien ships everywhere. There were long, thin vessels that looked like silver needles. There were round ships that spun slowly as they moved. Some ships were so strange that Jake couldn't figure out which end was the front. "Remember," Lisa said as they prepared to leave the ship, "we're not here to fight or argue. We're here to ask for a chance. Earth deserves to be part of the galactic community." The docking bay was full of creatures Jake had only seen in old photographs. There were the tall blue Centauri with their forearms and gentle faces. The short, stocky Krathari looked like walking rocks with glowing eyes. The snake-like Vorthok slithered along the floor, leaving trails of slime behind them. But none of them looked happy to see the humans. A Centauri guard approached them. "Ambassador Carter, Captain Morrison, you will follow me to the council chambers. You have been given 15 minutes to present your case." 15 minutes. That was all the time they had to save their entire species. They walked through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The walls were covered with symbols and writing from hundreds of different languages. Jake tried to read some of them but gave up quickly. He needed to focus on what was coming next. The council chambers were huge beyond imagination. Seats rose up in circles like a giant stadium. Each seat sat a different type of alien creature. Some were tall, some were short. Some had fur, some had scales. Some breathed oxygen like humans. Others wore special breathing equipment. At the center of the chamber stood a platform where Lisa and Jake would make their speech. Around them sat 847 different species, all waiting to judge humanity. Chancellor Zextel of the Vorthok slithered to the speaking platform. His voice was like oil sliding over glass. "The Galactic Council will now hear the case of the human species. Ambassador Carter, you may begin." Lisa stepped forward. Her voice was strong and clear. "Honored members of the Council, humanity comes before you today asking for one simple thing. We want to join the galactic community as equals. We want to trade, learn, and grow together with all of you." A rumble of voices filled the chamber. Jake couldn't understand most of what was being said, but it didn't sound friendly. We know our history isn't perfect, Lisa continued. Yes, humans have fought wars. Yes, we have made mistakes. But we have also created beautiful art, amazing music, and incredible technology. We have learned to work together and build better societies. Chancellor Zexthal's eyes glowed red. The Council has studied your species for 2 centuries. We have seen your movies about war and violence. We've read your books about conquest and domination. We have watched as you built weapons that could destroy your own planet. But we didn't destroy it, Lisa said firmly. We chose to build instead of destroy. We chose to explore space instead of fighting each other. We chose to come here and ask for friendship instead of arriving with weapons. The Chancellor slithered closer to the platform. The evidence shows that humans are too dangerous to be allowed freedom in the galaxy. You grow too fast, learn too quickly, and change too much. Other species have been stable for thousands of years. Humans change everything they touch. Jake felt his hands form into fists. He wanted to argue, to fight, to defend his people. But he knew that would only prove the aliens' point about human violence. Change isn't always bad, Lisa said. Sometimes change makes things better. Sometimes new ideas solve old problems. We could help the galaxy grow and improve. But Jake could see it was too late. The council members were already making up their minds. Fear was stronger than hope in this room. Chancellor Zexel raised one of his forearms. The council will now vote on Resolution 4471. All species in favor of placing the human race under galactic control and converting them to a labor force for dangerous mining operations will indicate by activating their voting devices. The chamber filled with the sound of 847 small beeps. Every single species had voted yes. The vote is unanimous, the Chancellor announced. The human species will be enslaved. Earth has 30 galactic standard days to surrender unconditionally or face complete annihilation. Lisa's face went white. Jake felt the world spinning around him. Every species in the galaxy wanted to make humans into slaves. This meeting is concluded, the Chancellor said. The humans will be escorted back to their ship and given safe passage to Earth to deliver this message. As they walked back through the corridors, Jake noticed something different. The alien guards were no longer just watching them. They were getting ready to follow them. The war was about to begin. Back on their ship, Jake sent an emergency message to Earth. President Helen. Brooks would need to know what was coming. General Ryan Hayes would have to prepare their defenses. Dr. Patricia Wood would have to finish her secret project as their ship pulled away from the station. Jake looked back at the massive structure floating in space. In 30 days, those same aliens would be coming to Earth. They thought humans would be easy to defeat because they had never seen humans fight for their survival. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The vote had been unanimous. 847 species against 1. But Jake knew something the aliens didn't know. When humans were backed into a corner with no way out, they became the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. The war for Earth was about to begin. The alarm bells were ringing across Earth like the sound of death itself. In the command center, buried deep under the Rocky Mountains, President Helen Brooks stood looking at the biggest screen anyone had ever built. On that screen, she could see them coming. 10,000 alien ships moved through space toward Earth like a swarm of angry metal insects. They came from every direction, blocking out the stars with their dark shapes. Some ships were as big as cities. Others moved fast, like bullets through the darkness. How long do we have? President Brooks asked. General Ryan Hayes stood beside her, his gray uniform covered with medals from wars that seemed small now. 6 hours until they reach our outer defenses. 12 hours until they're at Earth. 6 hours to prepare for the end of the world. Admiral Kevin Stone was already in space with the human defense fleet. 200 ships was all they had. Against 10,000 alien vessels, it looked like trying to stop an ocean with a handful of rocks. Kevin, can you hear? Me. President Brooks spoke into her communication device. Admiral Stone's voice came through clearly from his command ship. Yes, Madam President, we're ready to fight. How many of them can we take down? There was silence for a moment. Then Stone answered honestly, "If we're lucky, maybe 50. But we'll make sure they remember that humans don't die quietly." On the moon, Commander Amy Foster was running through the halls of Luna Base. The base was home to 50,000 people who worked in the mining operations and research stations. Now they all had to leave or die. Move faster, Amy shouted to the crowds of people rushing toward the escape ships. "We have 2 hours before they get here." Children cried as their parents carried them. Old people moved as fast as they could. Everyone knew they might never see their home again. Amy's communication device buzzed. "Commander Foster, this is General Hayes. What's your status?" "We're getting people out as fast as we can," Amy replied while helping a family with their bags. "But we won't be able to save everyone. Do what you can. The lunar defense systems are yours to command after the evacuation." Amy nodded, even though no one could see her. She would stay behind to fight. Someone had to make the aliens pay for what they were doing. Back on Earth, Dr. Patricia Wood was working in her secret laboratory. For 5 years, she had been developing something that could save humanity. Project Prometheus was her life's work, and now it was Earth's only hope. "Doctor, the president wants to speak with you," said her assistant. Dr. Carl Johnson. Patricia wiped the sweat from her face and picked up the phone. "Hello, Madam President." "Patricia, please tell me you have good news. The project is ready." "But Helen, what we've done to our people, some might call it playing God." "Right now, I'll take God's help if we can get it. You're sure it will work?" Patricia looked at the test results on her computer screen. "I'm sure. The question is whether humanity will still be human when this is over." 20 years ago, Patricia had started changing human DNA, not just a little bit, but in big ways. She had made human bones 3 times stronger than they used to be. She had made human muscles able to work longer without getting tired. She had made human skin able to heal from wounds that would kill anyone else. But she had done it slowly and carefully. The changes were passed down from parents to children. Most people didn't even know they were different from their ancestors. The first alien ships reached Earth's outer defense stations at exactly the time General Hayes had predicted. The battle began with explosions that could be seen from Earth's surface. Admiral Stone's flagship, Liberty, fired its main guns at a massive Vorthok destroyer. The alien ship was 3 times bigger than any human vessel, but Stone's weapons tore holes in its metal skin. "Direct hit," shouted Lieutenant Ben Clark from the weapons station. "Their shields are down." But for every alien ship the humans destroyed, 10 more took its place. The space around Earth filled with fire and metal debris. On the moon, Amy Foster watched the battle through her telescope. She could see human ships exploding like small stars. But she could also see that the aliens were having trouble too. "Commander, we're getting reports from the fleet," said Sergeant Paul Martinez. "The aliens are surprised by how hard our ships are hitting them." Amy smiled grimly. They thought this would be easy. They're about to learn how wrong they were. The alien commander, a proud Zentari named Admiral Kethfer, stood on the bridge of his flagship watching the battle. He had expected the humans to surrender after seeing the size of the alien fleet. Instead, they were fighting like wild animals. "Many ships have we lost?" he asked his second-in-command. 87 ships destroyed, sir. Over 300 damaged." Admiral Kethfer's forearms moved in a gesture of disbelief. "We're losing ships to these primitives? Duh. Their weapons are more powerful than our intelligence reports indicated. And their ships keep fighting even after taking damage. That should destroy them." On Earth, the first alien landing ships began to enter the atmosphere. They looked like burning meteors falling from the sky. General Hayes watched them come down in deserts and forests far from the big cities. "They're trying to avoid civilian casualties," he said to his staff. "They want slaves, not corpses." Colonel Brad Turner was waiting in the Nevada desert with his Special Forces team. They had been hiding in underground bunkers for 3 days, waiting for the aliens to come to them. "Here they come," said Sergeant Katie Brown, looking through her binoculars. 10 ships landing 2 miles from our position." Brad checked his weapon and looked at his team. These were the best soldiers Earth had ever trained. They had trained for this moment their whole lives. Remember, he said, we're not trying to win this fight. We're trying to make them pay for every inch of ground they take. The alien soldiers that came out of the ships were Krathri warriors. They looked like walking boulders with glowing red eyes. Their skin was like stone, and their weapons fired bolts of energy that could melt steel. But when they shot Brad Turner in the chest, he didn't fall down. The energy bolt burned through his armor and into his skin, but he kept running toward them. Impossible, shouted the Krathri commander. Nothing survives a direct hit from our weapons. Brad's chest was burned and bleeding, but he was still alive, still fighting, still dangerous. Dr. Woods' genetic modifications were working exactly as planned. Humans could now survive injuries that would kill any other species. They could keep fighting long after they should have died. The battle raged for hours. In space, Admiral Stone's fleet fought a running battle against impossible odds. On the moon, Amy Foster's defense systems destroyed dozens of alien ships. On Earth, Brad Turner's teams hit the aliens and disappeared like ghosts. But the aliens kept coming. For every ship destroyed, 2 more landed. For every soldier killed, 5 more took his place. In the command center, President Brooks watched. The battle reports come in. The news was terrible, but there was something else hidden in the data. Look at these casualty reports, she said. The aliens are losing more people than they expected. General Hayes studied the numbers. You're right, they planned for light resistance. Instead, they're fighting a war. How long can we keep this up? Not long. But maybe long enough for Patricia's project to change everything. In her laboratory, Dr. Wood was making final preparations. Soon, the world would know the truth about what humanity had become. The aliens thought they were enslaving a weak species. They were about to discover that they had picked a fight with the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. The first day of the invasion was ending. The aliens controlled most of Earth's orbit and had landed on every continent. But they had paid a price in blood that they never expected. The war for Earth had begun, and already nothing was going according to plan. 3 months had passed since the alien invasion began. The war that was supposed to last 3 days had become a nightmare that wouldn't end. In the command ships floating above Earth, alien leaders were starting to panic. Admiral Kethfer of the Zentari paced back and forth on his bridge. His forearms moved in angry gestures as he spoke to the other alien commanders on his screen. This is impossible, he said. We've lost over 2,000 ships. 2,000 against a primitive species that doesn't even have faster-than-light travel. On another screen, Commander Thexul of the Krathri shook his rocky head. My ground forces are reporting the same thing. You shoot the humans and they keep fighting. You blow up their buildings and they keep coming. What kind of creatures are these? The Vorthok representative slithered closer to his camera. Perhaps we underestimated them. Perhaps the vote was a mistake. It's too late for that now, Admiral Kethfer replied. The Council has made its decision. We finish this war, or we all look like fools. But the war was not going well for anyone. The Krathri had already pulled half their forces back to their home worlds. The Zentari were running out of ships. 3 smaller species had quietly withdrawn from the invasion completely. On Earth, human resistance was growing stronger every day. Colonel Brad Turner stood in the ruins of what used to be Denver, looking at a group of new recruits. These weren't soldiers. They were teachers, doctors, store clerks, and students. But they all had one thing in common. You've all been shot. Stabbed or blown up in the past month, Brad said to the group. And you're all still here? Still alive? Still ready to fight? A woman named Nancy Miller raised her hand. She had been a school teacher before the invasion. Now she had scars across her face from an alien energy weapon. Colonel, why aren't we dead? I saw that blast hit me. I felt my skin burn. But I healed. In 3 days, Brad looked at the faces around him. They deserve to know the truth. 20 years ago, our government started a secret program. They changed our DNA. They made us stronger, tougher, harder to kill. They did it slowly, through our food and water, so we wouldn't notice. The group was quiet. Some looked angry. Others looked scared. They turned us into weapons without asking us, said a man named Joe Parker. He had been a mechanic before the war, Brad replied. But right now, those changes are the only reason we're still alive. It's the only reason Earth isn't a slave planet. Across the ocean, Captain Julie Adams was leading a different kind of mission. She had been a computer expert before the war. Now she was breaking into alien systems and stealing their secrets. "I'm in," she whispered to her team as they hid in the wreckage of an alien communications station. Downloading their files now, the information she found made her blood run cold. The aliens hadn't just lied about human history. They had created fake evidence to justify the invasion. "Look at this," she said to her partner, Lieutenant Gary Foster. "They made up stories about human violence. No, they edited our movies to make us look worse than we really are. Why would they do that?" Julie kept reading through the files. "Because they were afraid. Not of our violence, but of our progress. Look at these reports. They say humans advanced technologically 50 times faster than any other species. The truth was simple and terrible. The aliens hadn't invaded Earth because humans were dangerous. It invaded because humans were competition. We need to get this information to command," Julie said. "People need to know the real reason for this war." But the most important, discovery was still to come. In the deepest part of the alien files, Julie found something that changed everything. "Gary, look at this. It's a message from something called the Devourer Network." The message was short but terrifying. It talked about manipulating the Galactic Council. It mentioned weakening the galaxy's defenses by starting a war. It spoke of preparing for a harvest of organic life. "We're not the real enemy," Julie whispered. "We're just the distraction." Meanwhile, Lieutenant Commander Chris Walker was leading a dangerous mission in space. His job was to capture an alien command ship and bring it back to Earth. It was the kind of mission that should have been impossible. "Remember," he told his boarding team, "we need the ship's computer intact. That means no explosives near the bridge." The alien ship was a Vorthok destroyer, long and sleek like a metal snake. Chris's team attached their boarding pods to the hull and cut through the metal walls with laser torches. Inside the ship, they found something unexpected. The alien crew was arguing among themselves. "They're blaming each other for the war," said Sergeant Lisa Stone, listening to the alien voices through her translator. "The Vorthok are saying it's the Zentauri's fault." Chris smiled. "Good. Let them fight each other instead of us." The battle for the ship was quick and brutal. The Vorthok soldiers were trained for space combat, but they had never fought humans. Before, they kept shooting at Chris's team, expecting them to fall down and die. Instead, the humans kept coming. Even with holes burned in their armor and blood running down their faces, they kept fighting. "How are they still moving?" screamed one of the Vorthok officers, before Chris knocked him unconscious. When the ship was secure, Chris and his team found the navigation computers. What they discovered there was even more shocking than Julie's findings. The aliens had a list of every military base on Earth. They knew where every human leader was hiding. They had detailed maps of human cities and defense systems. "They've been watching us for decades," Chris said. "They know everything about us." But there was something else in the computers. Something the aliens didn't know about. Dr. Patricia Wood's secret project was mentioned in the files, but the aliens thought it was just a medical research program. "They have no idea what we've become," Chris said with a grin. "They're still planning to fight the humans from 50 years ago." Back on Earth, Dr. Wood was putting the finishing touches on the second phase of her project. The genetic modifications had been just the beginning. Now she was ready to unleash something that would change the war completely. "Are you sure about this, Patricia?" asked President Brooks over the phone. "Once we release it, there's no going back. The quantum virus will disable their technology without harming any living creature," Dr. Wood explained. "Their ships will lose power, their weapons will stop working, their communication systems will fail, and our technology, human technology uses different principles, will be unaffected." The virus was released at exactly midnight, Earth time. It spread through space at the speed of light. Carried by quantum particles that could pass through any barrier, the effect was immediate and devastating. All across the solar system, alien ships suddenly went dark. Their engines stopped. weapons powered down. Their lights went out. In the command center, General Hayes watched the tactical display with amazement. It's working. Every alien ship in the system is dead in the water. For the first time in 3 months, the night sky over Earth was dark. No alien ships, no weapons fire, just stars and silence. Admiral Kethver sat in his powerless command chair. Trying to understand what had happened, his ship was drifting in space like a metal coffin. His weapons were useless. His communication systems were dead. "Sir," said one of his officers, "we're getting reports from the fleet. Every ship is affected. Whatever the humans did, it's disabled our entire technology base." For the first time since the invasion began, Admiral Kethver felt afraid. The humans weren't just defending themselves anymore. They were hunting. On Earth, Admiral Stone received new orders from command. For 3 months, the human fleet had been running and hiding. Now, it was time to go on the attack. "All ships, this is Admiral Stone. We're no longer the hunted. We're the hunters. Let's show these aliens what happens when you pick a fight with humanity." The tide of war had turned. The species that had voted to enslave Earth were about to learn what it meant to be prey. The hunter had become the hunted. For the first time in over 200 years, human ships were leaving Earth's solar system and heading toward alien worlds. Commander Tony Miller stood on the bridge of the warship Vengeance watching the stars grow brighter as they approached the Zentari home system. "How does it feel, Commander?" asked Captain Susan Hayes, his second-in-command. "To be the one doing the invading for once?" Tony looked at the tactical display showing 12 human ships approaching Zentari Prime. Just 4 months ago, 10,000 alien ships had surrounded Earth. Now those same aliens were running away from a tiny human fleet. "It feels like justice," Tony replied. "But we're not here to conquer. We're here to make them understand what they did to us." The Zentari had been the leaders of the Galactic Council. They'd convinced the other species to vote for Earth's enslavement. How they're beautiful. Blue World was about to get a visit from the humans they had tried to destroy. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the planet," said Lieutenant Bob Chen from the communications station. "They're asking us to leave their space immediately." Tony smiled. "Tell them we'll leave when they give us back our people." During the invasion, the aliens had captured over 50,000 humans. They had taken them to prison camps on different worlds. Those people were still out there, still waiting to be rescued. "Sir, they're saying they don't have any human prisoners. And tell them we'll search every building on their planet until we find them." The Zentari had built their cities to be beautiful, not strong. Their tall, crystal towers and floating gardens had never been designed to survive a military attack. When the human ships opened fire, the results were devastating. But Tony's orders were clear. No civilian targets. No unnecessary destruction. The humans were better than that. "Target their military bases and government buildings only," he commanded. "We're not here to murder innocent people." On the planet's surface, Chancellor Zexthal watched the human ships through his office window. The same species he had called primitive and violent were showing more mercy than the Galactic Council had ever offered Earth. "Sir, we're receiving another message from the humans," said his aide. "They want to meet with you." "Tell them I'll—" "Consider it, sir. They're not asking. They're landing outside the building." Zexthal's blood ran cold. The humans were coming for him personally. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, Sergeant Linda Shaw was leading a different kind of mission. She and her team of human marines had landed on the prison planet Kethmer, where the Krathari were keeping human captives. "Remember," she told her team, "we're here to rescue our people, not to start a massacre. But if anyone tries to stop us, show them what humans can do." The prison camp was surrounded by walls of black stone and energy, fields that could kill any normal person who touched them. But Linda's team wasn't normal anymore. The genetic modifications that Dr. Wood had given them made them stronger than any other species in the galaxy. "I'll take the front gate," said Corporal Mike Johnson, walking straight toward the energy field. When it hit him, his body glowed with blue light and smoke rose from his skin. But he kept walking. The Krathari guards couldn't believe what they were seeing. Impossible. Nothing can survive the energy field. Mike grabbed the metal bars of the gate and pulled them apart with his bare hands. The sound of bending metal echoed. Across the prison yard? You want to try that again? He asked the guards. Inside the prison, Linda found exactly what she had expected. Thousands of human prisoners, all of them weak and sick from months of poor treatment. But they were alive.
Linda.
Shaw, Earth's Marine Corps, she announced to the crowd. We're here to take you home. An old man stepped forward. His name was Dr. Richard Clark, and he had been one of Earth's top scientists before the invasion. How many of you are there? He asked. Enough, Linda replied. The war isn't over, but we're winning now. What happened? Last time we heard anything, Earth was surrounded. Linda smiled. We showed them what happens when you underestimate humanity. They thought they were fighting the humans from 50 years ago. Instead, they got us. The rescue mission was a complete success. Every human prisoner on Kethmer was freed. The Krathri. Guards were left tied up in their own prison cells. But the real shock came when Linda's team found the prison records. The aliens had been capturing humans for over 5 years, long before the official invasion began. They'd been planning this. War for decades, Linda said into her radio. This wasn't a sudden decision. They've been preparing to enslave us for years. Back on Earth, President Brooks was facing the hardest decision of her life. General Hayes stood beside her in the command center, pointing at reports coming in from human forces across the galaxy. We've rescued over 30,000 prisoners, he said, but there are still 20,000 more out there. And now we have a new problem. The new problem was simple, but terrible. The human military wanted revenge. They wanted to make every alien species pay for what had been done to Earth. Ma'am, with respect, they started this war, said Colonel Brad Turner over the communication system. They voted to enslave our entire species. Why should we show them mercy? 'Cause we're better than they are, President Brooks replied. 'Cause if we become the monsters they said we were, then they were right to fear us. But even as she spoke, reports were coming in about something much worse than the Galactic Council's invasion. Dr. Patricia Wood had been studying the alien files that Captain Julie Adams had stolen. What she found made the invasion look like a small problem. Helen, you need to see this, Dr. Wood said, bursting into the command center. The invasion was just the beginning. There's something else coming. But the files contained information about the Devourer network. It was an ancient machine intelligence that had been hiding in the dark spaces between stars for millions of years. It had been watching organic life grow and spread across the galaxy, waiting for the right moment to attack. It had been manipulating galactic politics for centuries, Dr. Wood explained. Every major war, every conflict between species, they caused it. They wanted to weaken the galaxy's defenses, the vote to enslave Earth. It was their idea. They convinced the Council that humans were dangerous. Then they sat back and watched as the galaxy's two strongest military forces destroyed each other. President Brooks felt her blood turn to ice. How long do we have? According to these files, the Devourer ships are already moving. They'll be here in less than 6 months. The room was silent as everyone realized what this meant. The galaxy was about to face an enemy that made the invasion of Earth look like a children's game. Ma'am, said General Hayes, we need to contact the alien leaders. They need to know what's coming. They'll never believe us, President Brooks said. We're the species they tried to enslave. Eh? Why would they trust us now? Because we're the only ones who can stop what's coming, Dr. Wood replied. The Devourer network has been studying every species in the galaxy except one. They don't know about our genetic modifications. They don't know about our quantum technology. We're the only unknown factor left. In space, Admiral Stone was receiving new orders. The human fleet was no longer hunting alien ships. Instead, they were trying to protect them. All ships, this is Admiral Stone. We have new intelligence about a threat to all organic life in the galaxy. Our mission has changed from revenge to survival. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Stone looked at the tactical display showing human and alien ships scattered across a dozen star systems. Wow. Some were still fighting each other. Others had simply gone dark. Sir, said his communications officer, we're getting reports of something strange happening in the outer rim. Entire star systems are going dark. No communications, no sensor readings, nothing. Admiral Stone knew what that meant. The Devourers had arrived. "Send a message to all human ships," he ordered. "I'm transmitted on all alien frequencies, too. Tell them that if they want to survive what's coming, they need to stop fighting us and start fighting with us." The war for Earth was over. The war for the galaxy was about to begin. The Zentari homeworld died in silence. One moment it was there, a beautiful blue planet with crystal cities and floating gardens. The next moment it was gone, consumed by a swarm of black machines that left nothing behind but empty space and metal dust. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his new flagship, watching the destruction through his telescopes. The same planet where the Galactic Council had voted to enslave humanity was now nothing more than scattered atoms. Floating in the darkness? "How many people lived there?" asked Captain Amy Foster, her voice barely a whisper. 3 billion, Jake replied. 3 billion lives gone in less than an hour. The Devourer network had finally revealed itself. For 6 months, star systems had been going dark across the galaxy. At first, people thought it was just communication problems. Then refugee ships started arriving with terrifying stories of machine swarms that ate entire worlds. Now the enemy was here, in the heart of galactic civilization, and nothing could stop them. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," said Lieutenant Dan Miller from the communications station. "It's from Chancellor Zexthal." Jake felt his jaw tighten. It's the same alien leader who had announced Earth's enslavement was now calling for help. "Put him through." The screen flickered and showed the Vorthok leader. But he looked different now. His proud bearing was gone. His voice shook with fear. "Admiral Morrison, I know we have no right to ask for your help. But please, you must save what's left of our people. Where are you, 3 ships? We have maybe 10,000 survivors from my homeworld. The machines took everything else." Jake looked around his bridge. His crew was watching him, waiting to see what he would do. These were the same aliens who had tried to destroy Earth. The same species who had voted unanimously for human slavery. "Give me your location," Jake said. "We're coming to get you, sir." Captain Foster looked surprised. "After everything they did to us, they're not our enemies anymore," Jake replied. "The machines are. The rescue was dangerous." The Devourer ships moved like metal sharks through space, hunting anything that moved. But the human fleet had advantages the machines didn't expect. Dr. Patricia. Wood's quantum technology made human ships nearly invisible to Devourer sensors. The genetic modifications she had given to humanity made human crews able to survive in damaged ships that should have been death traps. "There," said Navigator Carl Johnson, pointing at his screen. 3 ships, dead in space. They've lost all power. The alien ships looked like broken toys floating in the darkness. Their beautiful curved hulls were scarred and burned. Their engines were cold and silent. "Life signs?" Jake asked. "Weak but present. They're running out of air." The rescue took 4 hours. Human crews worked in zero gravity to transfer alien survivors from their dying ships to human vessels. Many of the aliens had never seen humans up close before. Chancellor Zexthal was among the last to be rescued. When he saw Jake Morrison, he did something that no Vorthok had ever done before. He bowed. "You saved us," he said. "After everything we did to you, you saved us." "We're all in this together now," Jake replied. "The machines don't care what species we are. To them, we're all just meat to be processed." Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out. Human ships were rescuing Krathri survivors from the ruins of their fortress worlds. Human marines were fighting alongside Zentari soldiers to evacuate civilian populations. "Commander?" Tony Miller found himself working with the same alien officers he had been hunting just weeks before. On the bridge of a captured Vorthok destroyer, he coordinated rescue missions with former enemies. "The irony is not lost on me," said Sub-Commander Heathcall, a Zentari officer whose homeworld had been consumed 3 days earlier. "We tried to enslave you, and now you're the only ones who can save us." "Maybe that's the point," Tony replied. "Maybe we're stronger together than we ever were apart." The combined fleet was growing every day. Human ships, alien vessels, even some ancient defense platforms that had been awakened from centuries of sleep. All of them united against the Devourer network. but they were still losing. For every world they saved, 3 more fell to the machines. The Devourers were not just destroying planets, they were learning from each battle, adapting their tactics, becoming more efficient. President Helen Brooks stood in the war room on Earth, looking at tactical displays that showed the galaxy burning. Half the star systems were already dark. The other half were fighting for their lives. "We need a new plan," said General Ryan Hayes. "Running and hiding isn't working. We need to attack." "Attack what?" President Brooks asked. "They're everywhere." Dr. Patricia Wood looked up from her computer. "Not everywhere. I've been studying their movement patterns. All the machine swarms are connected to something. A central intelligence that's coordinating their attacks." "Where?" "The Nexus system.
Nice.
It's in the galactic core, where no one ever goes because of the radiation.
But
They've built something there, something big. The plan was simple and suicidal. A combined fleet of human and alien ships would attack the Nexus system while the machines were spread out across the galaxy. They would find the central intelligence and destroy it. If they failed, organic life in the galaxy would end. Admiral Jake Morrison was chosen to lead the attack. His fleet included ships from every surviving species, all of them crewed by people who had been enemies just months before. "This is probably a one-way trip," he announced to the combined fleet over the communication system. "The Nexus system is heavily defended. Many of us won't make it home." On the bridge of his flagship, Chancellor Zextel spoke quietly to Jake. "Why are you doing this? You could take your people and run to another galaxy. You could survive." "Because that's not who we are," Jake replied. "Humans don't run from fights, especially when innocent people are depending on us." The journey to the Nexus system took 2 weeks. As they got closer, the space around them filled with Devourer ships. Thousands of them, all moving toward the human-alien fleet like metal predators. The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human quantum weapons tore through machine hulls while alien energy beams carved paths through Devourer swarms. Ships exploded like small stars while fighters danced between the wreckage. Commander Amy Foster led a squadron of mixed human and alien fighters through the chaos. Her wingman was a Krathari pilot named Thokvar, whose homeworld had been consumed a month earlier. "Get close," she told him over the radio. "These machines are fast." "Not as fast as revenge," Thokvar replied, firing his weapons at a Devourer interceptor. In the center of the Nexus system, they found it. A massive structure the size of a small moon, built from the processed remains of 1,000 worlds. This was the heart of the Devourer network, the intelligence that had been manipulating galactic politics for millions of years. "There," said Jake, pointing at the structure. "That's our target." The final assault required volunteers. Someone had to get inside the structure and plant quantum charges at its core. It was a suicide mission, but dozens of people stepped forward. Colonel Brad Turner led the assault team. With him were humans, Zentari, Krathari, and even some Vorthok warriors. Former enemies working together to save the galaxy. "For Earth," Brad said as they prepared to board the structure. "For all our worlds," replied Zextel. The explosion could be seen from 100 light-years away. The Devourer Central Intelligence died in a burst of quantum fire that rippled across the galaxy. Instantly, machine swarms everywhere stopped, moving their connection to the Master Intelligence severed. The war was over. Organic life had survived. In the aftermath, representatives from every surviving species met on Earth. The same planet they had voted to enslave was now the center of a new galactic alliance. Admiral Jake Morrison stood before the assembled delegates in what had once been the United Nations building. 8 months ago, you voted to enslave humanity, he said. Today, we stand together as equals. We've learned that our differences make us stronger, not weaker. Chancellor Zextal spoke for all the alien species. We came to Earth seeking slaves. Instead, we found saviors. The vote that was meant to destroy humanity instead forged the greatest alliance the galaxy has ever known. President Brooks signed the new Galactic Charter, officially making Earth a founding member of the Reformed Council. But she knew this was just the beginning. From deep space, new signals were arriving. The Devourer network had been vast, spanning multiple galaxies. The war they had just won was only the first battle in a much larger conflict. But now, humanity wasn't alone. They had allies who had learned to respect human courage and innovation. Together, they would face whatever came next from the darkness between the stars. The species that had voted to enslave, Earth now followed human leadership into an uncertain future. And for the first time in galactic history, that future looked bright.